Welcome, everybody, to Chapter 24 of A Call from the Stars, A Call to Arms. Point of view: Alien Council, former friends of the Human Coalition, also known as the Terran Union and the Human Confederation. A young, four-armed alien rushes through his door, clearly out of breath, as several of the council members look up and, with worry, ask, "Is there an alien attack?" The young one looks up and says, No, sir. I was running a little late." With that, they simply went back to their meeting. The High Counselor asked, "Was there any additional movement of the enemies?" Around the table, everyone just shakes their head no. Not today, not yesterday, not in the past several cycles. One actually came up and said, "It does not make sense. They should have made some sort of movements towards our territories by now. But as of now, ever since they tangled with the humans, we haven't seen or heard anything." Another, older female came in and said, "Yes, it is most likely that the humans were able to damage their ships and slow them down to a degree that they need to reconsolidate before further expansion." One of the younger males said, "Well, maybe the humans killed them all," which, of course, got jokes and laughs from around the table. No one believed for a moment that humans would be strong enough, cunning enough, or straight up mean enough to take down the Sniffs. But it was a possibility, as the young one looked with concern. Another young female said, "You should not underestimate the humans. They were and are some of the best fighters we've ever seen." This comment, of course, made most of the council jump in rage, as it totally spat in the face of their own military forces. It wasn't until the oldest one in charge raised his hands and everyone calmed down. As quietly as he could, he said, "Young one, you should not disgrace our people like that, ever." As she looked up, she said, "But I've known them. I know how they fight. I've seen them train." With that, he slammed two of his fists on the table, demanding that everyone pay attention. "Our fighters will take the battle to the enemy, and we are the only ones able to take them down. I know this because look at the humans. They sit only at 2/3 our height, are missing limbs, missing eyes. If it wasn't for their ingenuity to help us out with some of our vessels, our vehicles, and our weapon systems, we wouldn't even bring them up. Have you not heard the beacon every time we try to send a message? It simply comes back that we are unwelcome in their space. Why? Because they believe we betrayed them." She looked and said, "But we sort of did." From across the table, an older, grizzled military member screamed at her, "We did not. They simply think we did." And then one of the younger males, seated right next to the young female, stated, "But that was a safety precaution so that they wouldn't be able to target our ships. In fact, it caused the complete system shut." With that, again, there were fists on the table, but this time from all around to show pure hatred to their words. It was once again the eldest one holding up his four hands to calm everyone down. "This meeting is not being productive. I need to know, are we ready to take our fight to our enemy? Or are we still going to require a defensive posture?" From that around the room, he started asking about the fleet. Their fleet combined dreadnoughts, battleships, no, they're not the same thing, frigates, destroyers, and freighters, along with associated dropship and support personnel, were well over 280%. of what the starting fleet was. Not only that, but the new ships coming off the line, even though the hull design was very, very similar, if not the same, the internals were very different. With human ingenuity, they had learned a way to expand their energy weapons, the range, to almost double what it was. That being said, it was well short of the range of a projectile weapon, because projectile weapons, of course, have no range. However, they are limited to how fast the enemy can move out of the way. With all this information, they figured that they would be able to outgun their enemies, the Sniffs, without any problems. Of course, they would still have to get a broadside configuration, as they put it, civilized species in the galaxy do. With fixed weapons emplacements down the side, of course, they could fire 8, 12, sometimes over 20 of these energy weapons at the same time, without overheating their systems. Something that the humans just cannot do, which, of course, when this was brought up, brought a few more chuckles across the table. Along with that, humans had redesigned their dropships. They are now much better armed, much better armored, and are a lot faster. So the chances of them being shot down on the way to the surface are minimized far compared to what it was before. Along with that, these 6 appendaged aliens decided that they would begin using the human style of body armor, at least the old style, where it covered mainly just the squishy parts on the inside that you need, the vital organs, along with, of course, a couple small energy shields and ballistic shields along the arms and legs to help them to deflect from the Sniff's blades as they come down. Now, this wouldn't stop a bone from breaking, but it'll keep the arm from coming off. Along with that, they had started to use a style of energy weapon. What they did not know was very, very similar to what the Sniffs had started to use. The only difference is these 6 appendaged aliens decided that only one shot before reloading was bullshit. And they were right, of course. As it turns out, they have 4 shots before they have to reload. Not the greatest, but it's still enough to cut into a sniff and cause a very deep and very painful hole to open up. Of course, they still are energy weapons. The attempted push for projectile weapons, since that's what the humans use, was rejected on ammo capacity, and the fact that the size of these aliens may be large, they do not have the ability to lift up that much in comparison to the humans. In actuality, anything beyond a 40-pound pack was more than their legs could handle for any amount of time. They would find out that this would make them very, very reliant on resupply, which, thanks to the ungodly amount of dropships, they weren't as worried about anymore. Not to mention their new fighters outfitted to drop pods that are just loaded with ammo and medical supplies would definitely help out. This was a human idea, but not brought into fruition. At least they didn't think so. This gave them a readiness posture that would put anyone to shame. However, there was still the plan of taking the worlds. Which ones did they want to take? They knew that the Sniffs would be defending these worlds, and they would have to use a style of warfare that they found dishonorable and distasteful. However, it was the lightning warfare that humans had showed them, an old-fashioned blitzkrieg. One of the few words that these aliens, with their forked tongue, can't pronounce, which to humans was a still running gag. Once it was decided on which planet to take, the eldest simply held up his highest hand and said, "I hereby command the fleet. Commence this operation immediately." And with that, they all stood up, saluted him, and left. However, before they left, he motioned for the young female to stay, and she went to his side. As he did look down at her, she looked up, and he simply put both of his upper arms on her upper shoulders, their version of a hug. Granddaughter, you have given this position because you know the most about what the humans are capable of, and also you have worked alongside their military. Your insight is most needed. However, do not for a moment think that our own people cannot fight as well, if not better, than theirs. Granted, they can lift more than ours, and they can run much further. However, we can produce far more than they can. Never ever underestimate that. Looking up at him, she says, "Yes, grandfather, I know, but it's just that I know that enough. Just because you had a relationship with one of them is enough that you should be kicked off this council, and you know that. Do not let your personal feelings get in the way, ever." She looked away, just in a little bit of shame. He continued by saying, "You know I love you. And I know you're smart. I know you are capable, but understand that everyone still talks. Everyone still believes that you would rather go back and be their slave, like so many of ours were taken by the enemy." With that, she shied away. "It's not like that. It never was." He simply grabbed her shoulders and said, "Listen, the humans are no longer with us. You need to let that go. If you don't understand that, then there's nothing I can do to help you." She looked at him and began to sob, their version of it anyway, and he pulled her in for an actual human hug this time. And he said, "Granddaughter, simply let it out. That time of your life is past. Do not let it control you. You can't go back. You must move on. The humans are no more. Our enemy has taken care of them. They're gone. Understand that." And she began to break down as if she finally accepted the fact that someone had lost their life, something she'd been holding in for so long. And after a minute, she dried her eyes, looked up, steeled herself, as women do, and said, "I understand, grandfather. I will bring honor, respect back to our name." And with that, he smiled and said, "Then off with you. We have invasions to plan." As she skittered out the room, he was still concerned as he looked at the star chart. Zooming in to his own people, he could see ships were already beginning to mobilize. He smiled. "Now's the time. We take it back."